Hi, what's your name and how long have you been training?
Hi, my name is Reynaldo Soriano. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu now for the past 15 years.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Australia. I'm Filipino. I was born in the Philippines, then we migrated to Melbourne, Australia. And so almost a third of my life I spent in Australia. That's where I did my schooling there all the way to university. And then from there, I moved to the US.
What do you do for work?
Alrighty, so I've got two degrees. I did physics and mathematics and computer science and mathematics. So I used to be a database administrator, and then until I got into investing and trading and coaching people. So I've been doing that now for the past 25 years. I left work in 2003 and pursued as a trader and also training elite athletes.
Reynaldo, you've been training athletes for many years. Could you talk about that, please?
Yeah, so prior to Jiu-Jitsu, my sport, I was actually Taekwondo, and I used to represent Australia for Taekwondo, and all the way to the 2000 Olympics, where I was one of the chosen ones to have the opportunity to compete, even though I didn't make it to the 2000 Olympics. But the experience to be on that high elite level where I competed basically from Asia, Europe, and North America to qualify for the 2000 Olympics gave me the ability to start training actually athletes. So when I moved to the US, but prior to that, I had another opportunity to represent Australia for 2004 for Greece, for Athens. But I chose not to because there's a lot of time and commitment involved in order to be in that level. So when I moved here in the US, I did my strength and conditioning certification, my personal fitness coaching certification. And then when I started coaching at Stanford University from a collegiate level, where we basically I was one of the coaches as well to represent the US for the World University Games. So within that level of high level of coaching and training athletes, also making Stanford national champions out of the whole universities across the United States, gave me the ability to start training high school athletes. It was very interesting because a parent approached me if I could start training their son, who was a seventh grader, eighth grader during that time, and had a lot of injuries. So it's pretty much like a car where I had to change the whole component, the way how the athlete was training. So to avoid further injuries. And now he's a D1 at Pepperdine University for volleyball. So I do train. Mainly my niche is simply high school athletes, preparing them for either a division 1, 2, or 3 in terms of their sport, where I design programs for them, either for speed, agility, mobility, or having the vertical height. And also the most important part is minimizing injuries. And so that's how it all began. And now I also train high net worth individuals, where I contract myself off for a company because now what they're focusing is longevity. So talking about that in terms of jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, if you want to be in this space in terms of jiu-jitsu, is also knowing your body, when to, and also having additional training, not just from jiu-jitsu perspective.
Reynaldo, you've been training martial arts for the majority of your life. Could you talk about that, please?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I've learned being a martial artist is mainly knowing who you are as an individual. People always say that when you're a black belt is just a start of knowing who you are as an individual. So the question is, who are you really being? So my learning is like you need to be in the space of discipline. You need to be in the space of respect, commitment, motivation. All these things plays a very big value of who you are as an individual. My name Reynaldo is just an identity. It's a label, but it doesn't define me of who I am. So as a martial artist, on the other hand, defines me of who I am based on my own creativity. Based as well, like Jiu-Jitsu, for example, everybody's different. So the question is, how can you define your own level of Jiu-Jitsu as a human being? But if you would be able to create your own way in terms of your own creativity on the mats, then in my opinion, that's where you can accomplish what a true martial artist of who you are, that you're supposed to be. Number two is also knowing when to, like, having your own battles on the mats. You cannot be competitive all the time. It is important to learn, because without learning, and if you think that you're already good, then there's really nothing to learn. So as a lifelong martial artist, in my opinion, the philosophy of being a white belt, basically the belt just changed, but as a lifelong proponent of learning the art is a never-ending thing. So not only that, not learning the art, but learning yourself as an individual is the most important part. Competing at a high level becomes now to a space where it's mainly more about your level of commitment, your level of motivation. Because when you're dealing with an opponent who's also really strong and really physically and has that skill set, so the question is, how can you also be in that space? Are you just going to train 2 times a week? In my opinion, it's not enough, depending on your goals. If you want to really be the best, then you need to train at least 2 to 3 times a day, 6 days a week, if you're going to be in that level of that space. But if you want to do it recreationally, for example, it also depends on where you want to be with your art. So is also training once or twice a week good enough? Maybe it is for you. But for others, maybe it's not. But for me, if I want to be good at something, then I need to have that commitment, that motivation, that passion. Because your coaches will not give you that motivation. You need to have that internal fire, that inspiration and that passion, that if you love something, then you just have to do it without even thinking. And that also translates on the mats, that when you are rolling, do you have the level of confidence to do the technique? And if you're still thinking, doubting yourself, then you won't be able to do the technique. Then also translate with your extra curricular activities, your work, your relationships. If you're also having self-doubt at work, if you're having self-doubt with your relationship, they will affect the end result. So that's why from a martial arts perspective, all these learnings comes from within. And that is my learning, knowing who you are as an individual.
Do you have any advice for new students?
Absolutely. I still remember my first day when I started Jiu-Jitsu, coming from a high-level martial arts, and I thought I could basically submit, or I could do this, can defend myself against a blue belt, but I was wrong. And so that actually humbled me. And that day when that person submitted me 5 times in less than 4 minutes, I signed it, and I never looked back ever since then. So my advice to you, if you're new to the game, is to have what we call a growth mindset, to have an open mind of learning, because if you already think that you already know, then you won't be able to go to the next level. Number 2, highly recommend to have the foundation. So if your coaches are telling you to do certain things, like, posture up, have a good base, work on those. Don't go to an advanced move if you haven't even progressed to the beginner move. I also recommend to be, say, on the bottom. Why being on the bottom? Because to be on top is too easy. But once you're on the bottom, it will test your mindset, especially from a fight or flight response, the level of anxiety. When someone's smothering you, how can you react from a psychological, mental level, not just from a physical, because anyone can push, anyone can use energy. But can you control that emotion when you are being smothered? Can you control that anxiety? Can you control that self-doubt that maybe this is not for you? Can you control that level of fear? So if you're new to the game, and it's okay. It's okay to be on the bottom. I didn't go on top until I was actually purple belt. So my old instructor basically said, be on the bottom. And they used to put me against someone who's like 180 pounds, 200 pounds, and I'm only 150 pounds. But I learned to protect myself. And I believe that's what Jiu-Jitsu is. Jiu-Jitsu was created from a self-defense perspective. Can you defend yourself, and can you last yourself when you're into a fight. So when you're on the bottom, can you be able to protect yourself without you tapping? And during that time, I wasn't allowed to tap. And you know what? It gave me the ability to control my breathing and to control that level of fear. And if you will be able to do that, I can guarantee you your level of confidence will increase. It doesn't matter whether it be in jiu-jitsu or your normal day-to-day life. So if you're new to the game, have an open mind, come to training, find that inspiration, that motivation, that passion to be the best version of you. Have some goals. Create some form of an intention or a level of purpose while you're coming to training. Why did you come to jiu-jitsu in the first place? Is it to learn? Or maybe you love the atmosphere, the vibes, maybe the physicality aspect of it, or maybe the fitness perspective. So if you can incorporate that, you can enjoy it, then you will be in the gym more on a regular basis. But once you stop thinking that this is not good because you have too much expectation, it's too hard for you, I can almost guarantee you will stop training. But the idea is to have fun based on the mats and then just to enjoy basically the journey. In my opinion, like I said, even though I'm a black belt doing this for 15 years and as a martial arts for the past 40 years, I'm still a white belt that just never quit. So that's where it gives you the level of resiliency and persistence, not to give up. And hence, not just for beginners, but also for people who've been doing this. In most cases, I believe the statistics shows that when people get their blue belt and they stay stagnant, this is when they stop. There's only a small proportion of people who go to the purple belt. That's where research shows as well. People get to a brown belt, and you get to a black belt. There's only less than about 10 to 15,000 black belts in the whole world. That's why if you're new, number one, when you already signed up, congratulations, because signing up is the hardest part, especially you're coming in a bunch of lions and it's intimidating. But if you can be in that space and you're enjoying the journey, then you're going to last long in this business, especially in this sport or this art itself.
Reynaldo, do you have any advice for intermediate level students?
Absolutely. So if you're an intermediate level in jiu-jitsu, every day is not a competition. You need to learn to control that level of intensity, because if you want to last long in terms of injury-wise, then it's important to choose your own battles. I believe being long in this space and also helping others, athletes, number one injury is meniscus or your MCL, sometimes LCL, a lot of back and neck. And the reason why people are getting those injuries is because they're pushing themselves way too much, they're exploding, not being aware, and having that level of awareness when you're actually training. Okay, where's my position? And you can't go like explosive all the time, and it's not good for you, not good for your body. It's important to apply the technique slowly, maybe 50%, then slowly put it to 70, 80%. And then when you're comfortable within that move and becomes second in nature, then it becomes better for you. Those are the major ones that from a level of advice. Now, if you are over 40s, same thing. It's about longevity. Number one, do you stretch? Actually, not just for over 40s, also from beginner, intermediate, and then for people who are older than like 30 or 40 years old, it's important to stretch, having your mobility. Number two, do you lift at least 3 times a week? Lifting, in my opinion, is important because of those joints. 3, your level of mobility. Because with jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of things that you're using, especially your hips, your knees. You need to be mobile with that. Core work. Do you work on your core? Do you work on your arms? I find that as getting longer over here, that I'm also injured, I'm currently experiencing, and a lot of experiencing are basically elbows, fingers. So all these things, knowing when to release the brake and not gripping way too hard, because when you're gripping way too hard, then that's where you get tennis elbows or golf elbow. Back, like when you're bridging, so it's like, are you stretching those? Like you're doing your normal bridges? Are you doing yoga, for example? Do you have a daily routine? So as part of your daily routine are all of these components, not just going to training expecting that you're still like 12 years old or 15 or even 20, But in actual fact, the body is starting to, once you get older too, your metabolism basically gets slower, joints, everything. So your muscle composition changes, body composition changes. So it's important to have all these, your fitness levels, also your health levels, you're hydrated, did you sleep enough? So also learning to listen to your own body. Very important.
What is some of the best advice someone has given you about Jiu-Jitsu?
So a couple of things. As a competitor, one of the advice that basically I got from basically health and also from my old instructor is not really focusing on the points, but focusing on submission. However, once the competition basically involved, the art also changed, because from a Gracie perspective, in my opinion, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu before it became Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it was Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was formed or was created to defend oneself. And hence, that's why it doesn't matter where you're on the bottom, would you be able to submit that person? Absolutely. But now with the sport became Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. A really good book, by the way, is called Breathe by Rickson Gracie. That also explains the difference between Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. But nevertheless, with the sport, it became where you're learning to be more dominant being on top. Then if you're no longer being on the bottom, then you're losing basic points. It became a point system. But from a martial arts perspective, it is imperative to know the difference in terms whether if you're as a competitor or as a martial artist. Because there's an athlete, there's the art. So there's two different things. The other advice that I basically got was simply always thinking that philosophy, which is so true, that you're just a white belt that never basically quit. That's my philosophy. I'm just a white belt that never quit. Even though in due course, the amount of time that I basically did from Jiu-Jitsu, now being a black belt, I still have an open mind that I'm still a white belt. Because once you start thinking that you think that you're already good, then things will change. Not only that, is also to have fun. My dad also told me to choose your own basically battles, meaning that you need to know who you are being, not letting people dictate of who you are being. For example, a lot of people will define their level of success through an end result. That if I get my blue belt, then I'm good. That if I get my black belt, then I'm good. That if I get a gold medal, then I'm successful, I'm confident, I'm excellent, I'm good. No, it doesn't happen that way. Those are just the end result of who you are as an individual based on your own being. Meaning that if you see yourself being confident, then you won. Your level of confidence was the starting point of why you got the gold medal. But if you did and you performed everything from the starting point, then it's just a normal reaction that you got to get that gold medal because you did everything and you put your heart and soul into it. A lot of athletes these days are just too focused on, oh, but I want to get my blue belt. Oh, why are they not passing me? Or why am I not winning? Those are the wrong questions that people do ask. The question that they should be asking is, how can I get my blue belt? How can I get my black belt? How can I win? So if you would be able to answer those in terms of that how, the question is, what is that how? How many times a week do you train? Do you ask questions from your professors or your coaches? Hey, did I do this right? So that's also one thing I learned, not just from my parents, but also from my mentors, is to ask questions. How can I make it better? Can you please give me an advice on how to change this? But if your limitation is that you only have one way of thinking, I can guarantee you it will also limit your way of your journey to Jiu-Jitsu because you only have one way. There's 10,000, 11,000 different moves. And out of 10,000 or 11,000 moves, maybe you only master 4 moves in your lifetime. But if you're a type of person who's going, oh, but I want to learn this. I want to learn that. And then you're doing 100 things and you're not mastering one, you're not going to get to the level where you want to be at. So if you look at the best athletes, champions, world champions, I'll take Mika Galvao, for example. If you listen to him, he will always say, oh yeah, but there's nothing special about me. I always do the same thing. I do an armbar, I do a back take, I do a choke. That's it. Why? Because they mastered the fundamentals of Jiu-Jitsu. Hence, if you would be able to do that in terms of the basic fundamentals, and you can master that, then you would be able to master anything, in my honest opinion. And hence, that's why now I'm just learning to open in terms of my way of the game, because I just started. I don't see it as mastering the basics, mastering the fundamentals. I understand the basics. I understand the concepts and the fundamentals, and hence is why I'm opening my game. But nonetheless, of course, you're a professional athlete and you're doing this full time. Then, of course, the learning and progression and the skill set is totally different compared to someone who's only doing it recreationally, right? So that's why, from a philosophical perspective, that I learned from my mentors, from my coaches, from people around me, is to always learn, to have an open mind, because if you're already perfect and if you're achieving perfectionism in this lifetime, I can guarantee it won't happen. But if you can mastery, hence martial arts is the art of mastery, not perfectionism, then you can be able to go to the next level in terms of whatever that might be.
Reynaldo, if anyone wanted to reach you regarding training, fitness, or physical preparation, how can they reach you?
Yeah, you can always contact me. My personal number is 650-390-7104, or you can ask Darren Machine, and I'm always here anyway, almost like 7 days a week, and you can just ask any questions, and I'm more than happy to answer anything.
Thank you so much for your interview. We learned so much about you and everything else. Is there anything you'd like to say to your Kuleana family?
Yes, as you guys would know, Kuleana's energy and vibration is always very positive. We're here for you. And if you need anything, you need any advice or any recommendation, I'm here for you. Likewise for, of course, Machine and Darren. And we want to, as much as possible, is to create a environment for you as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, in terms of like you want to have fun at the same time, depending on what your goals are, not just from learning from a jiu-jitsu perspective, but if you want to be an athlete, you want to compete, or you want to just get better, then we're here for you.